What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday. Dan Kasper Show on the air, radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online for streaming at sportstalk1051.com. You got the video stream up and rolling, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app. Happy Tuesday. Appreciate you making this a part of your starts on this January 24th. If you're up and at it already this morning. It's on the game plan. What's on the menu here? What are we going to be discussing, chatting about? Bucks band back together, picking up the W last night. 30th win on the season. Giannis on the court. Middleton coming off the bench, working his way back in. But Bucks putting up 150 points, 150. They did give up 130 against the Pistons too. But picking up the W, and probably the first times all season that we've seen this Bucks roster kind of on the court all together there, right? Giannis finishing with 29 points in 27 minutes, 12 rebounds, 4 dimes. Brook Lopez, 21 points, an efficient 8 of 12 from the field. Drew Holiday, 16. Bobby Portis did get injured in the game. He had 18 points, but after the game, he didn't seem too concerned about it. Carter coming off the bench in just 16 minutes, but he put up 18 points, 6 of 8 from 3. And as we mentioned, Middleton came off the bench as well. 15 minutes in action for him, putting up 8 points. Also dishing it out 4 times there too. So good to just see this ball club, this team all out together. As Giannis said after the game, band is back together. So I know it was against the Pistons. Say what you want. Pistons only 12 and 37 this year. I get it. We get it. But just good to see these guys all on the court, and hopefully they can stay healthy and be on the court all together throughout the rest of the regular season, for cry eye. You know what I mean? So there was an article up on CBS Sports that I'm going to kind of post a question to you Bucks fans a little bit later on this morning. But, with the trade deadline approaching February 9th, Lakers making some moves and such. But there was an article where they had the 5 teams up there who were under the most pressure, or the teams that should be under the most pressure to make a move by the deadline. Bucks were not on that list. However, should they be on that list? How much pressure should be on this Milwaukee Bucks team to maybe make a move before the trade deadline? Or shouldn't they? Or is it maybe still just a little too early to tell, even though it's January 24th and February 9th coming up in a couple weeks from here? As we kind of threw out there yesterday, is this the time, just to kind of see now that everybody's kind of back and Middleton's back and working his way, he'll be back in the starting lineup and such. Let's see how this team kind of gels and such. But should the Bucks be under some pressure to perhaps make a move? I mean, there's been some more rumors, even just from yesterday. Apparently, the Knicks potentially interested in Grayson Allen. Could the Bucks work a package if they were somebody, interesting that they would like on the Knicks roster? Is that a possibility? Serge Ibaka, we mentioned yesterday that the Bucks and his team agreeing that they'll try to find a trade partner, agreeing to both kind of go their separate ways. Ibaka obviously not getting any minutes because of the play from Brook Lopez and such. So there's been talk that the Heat, the Clippers, and the Nets are interested in him. But again, Nets are a team that's towards the top for the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. John Wall has been kind of thrown out there as a possibility for the Milwaukee Bucks too. I mean, John Wall, do the John Wall. You know what I mean? Could he be a possibility? So far this year, John Wall, he's with the Clippers, and the Clippers have been a team that have kind of not been playing up to the expectations that a lot of people had in the preseason. Remember, we did a lot of the preseason, or I should say, before the regular season tipped off, a lot of the picks and from the national people and that, and Clippers were like a popular team to come through to come through the West. And right now, they haven't probably been living or playing up to those expectations. They were actually one of those teams in that top 5 list, according to CBS Sports, that should be under the most pressure to make a move. But John Wall so far this year, playing just averaging 22, a little over 22 minutes a game, 11.4 points per game. Crowder, of course, is still going to be there. I know Crowder the other day, was it yesterday, tweeting out the emojis, hourglasses, timing on that, and that sort of thing. Is he getting close to finally being moved and finally being traded and such? But who would be like an untouchable where you don't? Obviously, it's not going to be Giannis or Drew Holiday or anything like that. But is there somebody on this Bucks team that's a role player, that's a bench player that you don't want to see John Horston, general manager of the Bucks, or you don't want to see the Bucks move on from, or include in any like trade packages? Is there anybody? Is Pat Connaughton on that list for you? Is it a Grayson Allen? Is it Carter? Been a nice 3-point kind of guy. Don't think about the top tier players on this team. I wouldn't even include Bobby Portis in that. Like, Bobby Portis. No, I'm talking like the Connaughtons, the Allens, the Carters. Is there any one of those guys where you just like, no, I don't want the Bucks to move on from those guys or include them in any trade packages? We'll hit that up. Speaking of hoops, Badgers, yuck. Last night, losing to Northwestern in that makeup game that was originally scheduled for the weekend. But the Badgers falling to Northwestern last night. Yeah, 66-63. The Badgers missing their last 7 shots from the field, and of their last 10, missed 9 of its last 10. I mean, they couldn't buy a bucket down the stretch there. And maybe we talked about like the rebounding issues that they've had and that sort of thing, but maybe another thing on this Badgers team that's really lacking is that dude who can stop the bleeding or get them out of a little bit of a funk with a basket. I mean, you can't go down these stretches with not making your shots in a tightly contested battle. And again, another slow start for the Badgers to begin the game too, which I know Greg Gard has kind of mentioned at the beginning or a few weeks ago. But you kind of look at some of these tendencies with this Badger hoops team. Slow starts, stretches down towards the end of the game where they can't buy a bucket. I mean, what's the issue? 4 of their 5 starters, double figure scoring for the Badgers, but just 7 points off the bench. Not a lot of bench production last night, and not a lot of bench play. Gilmore was the leading bench contributor for the Badgers last night. 10 minutes, 4 points. And of all the bench players last night, they only shot the ball 3 times. We'll talk more Badgers with RJ Cardinal coming up about 8:25 here this morning. Catch up with him and such. Even gonna throw a little Badger wrestling in there, Badger hockey, all that good stuff there too. So, that'll be coming up about 8:25 or so. I want to talk a little green and gold, not too much, but we're going to continue our offseason scouting, and I'm going to switch it up here a little bit because if you are one on social media or Twitter or whatever have you, there's been some talk about Aaron Jones, and obviously Aaron Jones is a player that the Packers will have to figure out what to do contract wise because he's got a big cap hit and such. And Goody had said that in his presser a couple weeks ago, in the season presser, that he pretty much indicated that Aaron Jones would be back, but he kind of joked too that they'll probably have to do some restructuring on that thing because it is a big cap hit for this season. But I want to talk a little bit about Aaron Jones here because you look at the contract hit or cap number he's got. You got A.J. Dillon coming into his final year under his rookie deal. I don't know if that would be a priority for Green Bay to sign up. We know A.J. Dillon is the mayor of Door County, so he probably would like to stick around a little bit longer in Green Bay there, right? But I also feel like too there's some numbers I want to go through with Aaron Jones. And is it possible that we still kind of maybe underrate Aaron Jones a little bit? And is that because maybe he doesn't get the ball as much as other backs in the league, right? I mean, throughout the season, we talked about, you look at the attempts and you compare it to guys like a Nick Chubb or anybody else out there, some of the top running backs out there that come off, Derrick Henry or anybody like that, Jonathan Taylor when he's healthy. But you look at the attempts for Aaron Jones and they're not up there, which, it's like, oh, hey, save it, maybe prolonging his career, staying a little bit healthy, not taking as many hits and such. But when you kind of look at it and you look at where he's at in terms of some of these numbers in like Packers history, I don't know, are we kind of, we talk about wasting the talent for quarterbacks and such, but man, you got a guy like Aaron Jones who I thought still looked pretty darn good. And even this year playing through a lot of, injuries or banged up there a little bit, kind of gutting it out as we saw down the stretch there. But there's maybe we need to have a little bit more of an appreciation for Aaron Jones. And again, maybe it's just because it's just one of those things he doesn't get used as much as other backs in the league. And is that necessarily a bad thing because you're trying to prolong his career, you're trying to keep him a little bit more healthy, a little bit less wear and tear on that body of his? But there's some interesting numbers, including our pop quiz. Our Tuesday pop quiz is going to involve some numbers about Aaron Jones over there too. So that'll be coming up towards the back end of the hour. But one other thing that was kind of like going around, I think it was in a Packers.com chat or a Packers chat or something like that. But there was a question like, who's the one Packers player that would really upset you if they were to be moved on from this offseason? It's an offseason that a lot of unpredictability, but kind of similar to what I'm asking for Bucks fans out there, for your like role player that you do not want to see the Bucks move on from. Who is the one player on this Packers roster, and like realistically ones, like they just signed Elton Jenkins, so they're not going to move on from Elton Jenkins, right? So he's like, oh, I'd be upset if they moved on from Elton Jenkins. They're not going to move on from Elton Jenkins. Same for like Jair Alexander or like a Rashawn Gary. Or I'm talking like those guys that have been kind of like, ooh, huge cap hits. Could they be, cap casualties sort of thing? Or could, maybe it is Aaron Rodgers for you. Or maybe it's an Alan Lazard or Bobby Tunyon or David Bakhtiari. Like, who is the one Packer player that would kind of like really upset you if they were to be moved on from this offseason? Realistically, too. Because I think mine is Aaron Jones. I think right now, if I were to answer that, I think it's Aaron Jones. So I want that up coming up a little bit later on as well, including some interesting numbers. That, again, I was looking at them last night, kind of thinking about this, and I was looking, kind of going down some deep rabbit holes and dark holes on social media and Twitter. I'm like, man, we kind of underappreciating him a little bit. I don't know. Also, it is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what's grinding your gears? You can hit me up on Twitter at Kasper, facebook.com/Kasper Sports. We got a bench start cut. It's going to be a Brewers edition of bench start cut. We'll hit that up sometime in the next hour, in the 7 o'clock hour. So we'll get to that too. But let's get things rolling here this morning. Opening drive. Let's talk a little hoops here. So we'll get you updated on the latest potential Bucks trade rumors. Bucks picking up the W with the band back together last night. Who's the one Bucks role player that you do not want to see be involved in some potential trade packages out there? So we'll hit that up. Plus Badger hoops. Not a good look last night, and it's going to be a quick turnaround because, well, they got Maryland coming up tomorrow night too. So hoops chat. That's where we're going to lead things off here this morning. We'll take that first break, and then coming up, we'll hit up some Bucks and Badgers. Then we'll get to the Aaron Jones and Green and Gold chat a little bit later on. All right, I promise. All right, we'll be back after these quick words. Sounds like we're going to get some pretty chilly weather coming up this weekend. So it might be a good idea if you know you need to get a replacement battery for your vehicle. Get on over to ASAP Used Auto Parts, in Eau Claire. Get that battery replacement for your vehicle so you don't have to try to jump it. Find a buddy to jump it, or cross your fingers and hope that it's actually going to start in the morning. And not only does ASAP Used Auto Parts have those batteries, well, if you're looking to maybe save some money on some high quality used auto parts, or maybe you're doing a little project and doing a little remodel with the car, well, ASAP Used Auto Parts, your go-to spot right there. Oil changes, yep, they do that too. Tires for those snow-covered roads, you betcha. ASAP Used Auto Parts has you covered in all those different areas. So check them out, 1330 Menominee Street in Eau Claire. It's just right across from the Do Dodge over there. You can also hit up their website, ASAPUsedAutoPartsEC.com. All right, opening drive here this morning. Let's chat a little hoops. So Bucks band back together last night. Chris Middleton came off the bench. Giannis back on the court too, and the Bucks exploding for 150 points, dropping 49 in the first quarter there. 150 to 130 win over Detroit. Bucks picking up their 30th win on the season to improve to 30-17. We went through the numbers already here a little bit, but as Giannis said, band back together. Good to get the guys all on the court at the same time. Chemistry didn't seem to be like an issue with those guys out on the court too. I know, kind of chat a little bit about that, and that's kind of been something that's been rumbling out there. Is there a little bit of a chemistry issue, whether it's on the court or maybe off the court and that sort of thing? Sure didn't look to be the case last night. Now, I know it's not like they did this against the Celtics. It's not like they did this against the Nets or whatever. It was the Pistons. Totally get it. Not say it's like, whoa, look out now for the Bucks. I get it, Pistons, but it's just good to get all those guys back on the court healthy and getting some minutes and logging some minutes with each other out there. So, but Middleton will eventually be back in that starting lineup. Sure seems like they're kind of, taking it easy, working his way back in. He'll be back in that lineup sooner rather than later. Bobby Portis did leave the game due to injury with a sore right knee early in the fourth quarter. Mike Budenholzer after the game saying we're hopeful that it's not anything serious. So fingers crossed there that nothing is too serious. I know Bobby Portis afterwards said he wasn't too concerned about it either. So, but all right, get you updated on some of the trade rumors that have been circling around this Milwaukee Bucks team. We talked about the Eric Gordon trade rumor yesterday. Some more names are kind of being floated out there. Sounds like the Knicks are enamored with Grayson Allen. And apparently there's been some talks. Again, these are rumors, but maybe where there's a little bit of smoke, maybe there's a little bit of fire there. But apparently there's been some talks with the Bucks and the Knicks about Cam Reddish. Now, Cam Reddish, he has been benched in New York's last 25 games. The former Dookie, so far this year in the 20 games that he has played, he has put up 8.4 points per game. His first few seasons in the league, back in 2019 when he first started up with Atlanta, 10.5, 11.2, 10.1, 11.9 points per game. But then, once he got over to the Knicks, that production's kind of gone down there a little bit. Now, not trying to point the blame, but, Tom Thibodeau over there, head coach for the Knicks, sometimes we've seen this with certain players where maybe the offense, style of play just doesn't work under a particular coach and such. But, you look at Cam Reddish's 3 seasons with Atlanta, put up 11.1 points per game. Higher rebounds, average more rebounds. Total rebounds, 3.4 rebounds per game. Minutes, 26.3. And then his last couple seasons here with the Knickerbockers, his points have gone down to 7.4. His rebounding numbers have gone down to a 1.5. His minutes have been cut to an 18.7. He's played just 35 games for the New York Knicks here. So take it for it. He's a younger, still a younger dude, 6'8". He's got that wingspan to him, right? Right, Jay Billis, wingspan. So you got a Cam Reddish rumor out there. We mentioned there's a John Wall rumor potentially out there. Could the Bucks be interested in John Wall? Bringing him on over. John Wall with the Clippers. Clippers may be one of those teams that might try to be aggressive by the trade deadline to improve their team because not really playing up to the expectations that there originally was before the game or before the season started. But if John Wall is bought out, that's kind of one of the theories out there. If he's bought out from the Clippers in his contract, there's a rumor out there that he is interested in joining either the Miami Heat or the Milwaukee Bucks. So, or maybe traded or anything like that. So, you got a John Wall rumor out there. The Jay Crowder one's still out there. We mentioned the Eric Gordon one that's out there. There's a few names that are being thrown all across. Is there one role player, though, that you don't want to see the Bucks be involved? You know, is there like a guy that comes off the bench for the Bucks? And maybe take Bobby Portis out of this equation because I don't know of too many Bucks fans who would want to move on from Bobby Portis. But if there's a different role player like a Pat Connaughton or a Carter or a Grayson Allen, I know he's a starter and such, but is there a Bucks role player that where you don't want to see be involved in any trade package out there? I think for me, one of them for sure is Carter. You know, he has been rightfully so, getting more than George Hill, being the, backup point guard, being inserted in the starting lineup quite a bit here this year. Carter would be one I do not want to see the Bucks move on from. I don't want to see that because of his three-point play, because, he has been a good player for the Bucks this year, whether he's been asked to have a, fill-in start here or there or coming off the bench or anything like that. So Carter, to me, it would be definitely one I don't want to see. If I were to put him in order here, and we got to be a little bit realistic too, because if you do want trades to happen, if you want guys to come in, you're going to have to put in a decent package. It's not the old school Madden games or the old school video games where, you could trade a third string point guard for Michael Jordan or anything like that happen. You've got to be able to come up with packages that other teams are gonna want to be able to, accept. So it's not easy to just say, well, trade that person for that person. Well, we got to be a little bit realistic here. So would I be okay with giving up a guy like Grayson Allen? I think, yeah, it would depend on who you're getting in return. But you are going to potentially be losing out on that 3-point percentage there. But I think the wild card in all this thing here is too, keeping Carter, you'll have that 3-point percentage. If Chris Middleton can stay healthy, he'll provide a little bit more shooting there. But I think right now, when you're looking at the Bucks, they maybe, just maybe, they're going to prioritize a little bit more defense too, and maybe that just ups the ante here with that Crowder trade a little bit more. As you look at some of their defensive statistics the last couple of weeks, last few weeks here, they haven't been as good as what they were when they first started the season. Been kind of going down a little bit. So, do you prioritize shooting or defense if you're the Bucks right now? Maybe they get a little bit of both, right? I saw one name out there that you want to talk about. You want to talk about maybe getting some 3-point shooting and adding that a little bit there. Fred VanVleet from Toronto. Now, I know he signed that big deal a couple of years ago, and obviously Bucks fans probably remember him a few years ago in that playoff series when Kawhi Leonard was with Toronto, and Fred VanVleet looked like he couldn't even miss a freaking three-pointer. Now, this year, yeah, his performance has been a little bit down. But if he can recapture what, his 3-point percentages and be that threat behind the arc, yeah, that would be tempting. I mean, he's coming off of a 28-point performance against the Knicks there too, so you'd think that would kind of boost up his stock report there. But yeah, he's a Rockford, Illinois native. Wouldn't be that far from home, from his hometown. If he gets maybe acquired by the Bucks, that one would probably cost a little bit more. Let's be realistic. That one would cost a little bit more. You'd probably have to put together a pretty intriguing package. I don't know if the Bucks would necessarily have all those pieces available and that draft capital available to acquire a guy like VanVleet, but yeah, that one would be okay, where I would include like a Grayson Allen, maybe another player or so, and bringing in VanVleet and putting him in as your 2 guard. But then I don't know how much you'd have left over maybe to try to acquire a Crowder to improve your defense and your perimeter defense and such. I still feel like the Bucks are at least going to make a move. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a couple of moves. It sure seems like, if we are, taking these rumors and these reports to heart, the Bucks are trying to be active in this trade market, that they are looking to make some deals. The only thing is that they don't have a whole lot that they can offer. They don't have those first rounders unless you want to wait a few years. They've got second rounders they're willing to part with. But when you add up all these names that have been kind of thrown out there, it sure seems like that the Bucks are trying to make at least a couple of moves. Or maybe they're throwing out a bunch of deals out there and hoping one will just kind of stick and that they'll get that one. But it sure seems like they're going to do something before that February 9th deadline. Next game up is going to be a good one for the Bucks at home tomorrow, taking on the Denver Nuggets. That should be a fun one over there. 2 of the best in the NBA. Denver, one of the best in the West. Bucks, obviously, one of the best in the East there. So, all right. But is there for you a Bucks role player that you think is kind of untouchable, that you don't want to see involved in any trade packages? And try to keep Bobby Portis off this. And we're obviously not talking about the Giannis, Drew Holiday, that sort of thing. We're looking at like the Grayson Allens, the Carters, the Pat Connaughtons, those type of players. Maybe even a Marjan Beauchamp, the rookie. One of those guys that you don't want to see the Bucks move on from. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break. We'll get to some of your thoughts on that. We're going to hit up some green and gold chat here. I want to talk a little Aaron Jones coming up a little bit later on. Plus, we got Badger Hoops Talk. Badgers losing to Northwestern last night. What is the issue going on with this Badger Hoops team? But before that, pop quiz time. All right, so you guys know the drill on a Tuesday pop quiz. Try not to Google or look it up or cheat. Let's have a little fun with this. So we're going to get to an Aaron Jones topic coming up here in a little bit. But here's a fun little nugget involving Aaron Jones that'll lead into this question. The only ball carriers in NFL history to record 40-plus rushing touchdowns while maintaining a 5 or more yards per carry average through their first 6 NFL seasons is Aaron Jones and who else? Only one other running back to do this. Who is it? I'll rephrase it again, or I'll say it again before we take the break. The only ball carriers in NFL history to record 40-plus rushing touchdowns while maintaining a 5 or more yards per carry average through their first 6 NFL seasons is Aaron Jones and who else? Text me your picks, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. Again, try not to cheat or Google it. But if you know the answer, just text it on in anyways. Answer coming up after the break. Speaking of the Man Cave podcast, brought to you by our good friends at Toyson Ford and Hy-Vee. We're going to have another little bit of a history deep dive. The subject on the next one that we're going to be doing is going to be on Mr. Johnny Blood McNally. Born and raised in New Richmond, Wisconsin, but has a connection to the Chippewa Valley. So we'll get to that in the upcoming episode of the Man Cave podcast. A little bit of a history deep dive there. If you're not subscribing or following the Man Cave podcast, make sure you do so on your favorite podcasting platforms. Talking like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Stitcher, also available at sportstalk1051.com. All right, so pop quiz time. Our question again was the only ball carriers in NFL history to record 40-plus rushing touchdowns while maintaining a 5 or more yards per carry average through their first 6 NFL seasons is Aaron Jones and who else? Well, if you would have guessed Jim Brown, Surveyor Sam, the only one that guessed Jim Brown, you would be correct. Jim Brown is the only other running back, along with Aaron Jones, to have those numbers. Not bad company if you're one Aaron Jones over there. Speaking of Aaron Jones, now there's obviously been a lot of talk about is he going to, or are the Packers going to hold on to him? Can they afford to hold on to him? He's got a big cap hit. Brian Gutekunst kind of insinuated that, yeah, they're going to hold on to him, but they're going to have to do some restructuring because he does have that big cap hit coming up this season here. So when you look at it, in case anybody's wondering, well, how big of a cap hit does he have? It'll be about $20 million worth. If the Packers were to move on from Dave, about half of that in some cap space. So that's why he's kind of been talked about. Could he be a guy that maybe the Packers move on from? A.J. Dillon's entering the final year of his rookie deal. Maybe sign him up a little bit cheaper there and go in the draft and prioritize a running back at this point. I posed the question out there. If there was one player that the Packers, that I don't want to see the Packers move on from this offseason, for me, it's probably Aaron Jones. Because, and I mean, you can make the case for a couple of them or a few of them or a lot of them, if you will. But for me, if I had to put number one on there, it's Aaron Jones. And you look at some of the numbers that Aaron Jones has put out throughout his career, and they're pretty darn impressive when you take a look at it. So, like, Aaron Jones right now is already third in franchise history with rushing yards, 5,284. I don't know if he'll catch Jimmy Taylor and Amon Green. Jimmy Taylor's in second, Amon Green's in first. But the thing that kind of, when you look at it too, is the amount of attempts that he has compared to, his other numbers. It's pretty darn impressive. So he's third on this list, 86 games. John Brockington's fourth. He's got 85 games. But then you look at the attempts. Aaron Jones has 1,035 rushing attempts in his career. The guys above him, Jim Taylor, 1,811. Amon Green, 1,851. The guy right behind him, John Brockington, 1,293. And you look at it, he's just been so efficient. Maybe and I kind of threw out the question, does he maybe get a little bit underappreciated at times? And maybe it's just because, hey, he doesn't get the ball as much as a lot of ball carriers out there, as a lot of bell cows out there, like a Nick Chubb or a Derrick Henry or anything like that. And is that necessarily always a negative thing? Yeah, there's times that we're like, okay, just keep giving it to him because he's the dude and he's the best offensive player. But maybe it's helping prolong his career just a little bit too. And it does help to have another running back on the roster where maybe some teams don't have that other option. But I didn't see anything from this past season that would indicate that Aaron Jones is like, oh, yeah, it might be time to move on from him. And we know running backs are tricky. Remember when they signed Aaron Jones to that contract? We all kind of, I think a lot of us thought that he's probably not going to be back. Giving contracts to to running backs, big contracts. You worry about they're going to hit a wall. I mean, look at Dallas with Zeke Elliott, big contract. Has he been playing up to that level? You can make the case probably not. We've seen it before with running backs, and it makes a lot of people and a lot of teams nervous about giving contracts to running backs. But Aaron Jones, to me, doesn't look like he's lost anything at this point. I hope he's back next year. You want to take a look at maybe the most trying to see the scoring leaders for Packers history too. Aaron Jones is in the top 10. He's 9th. 60 total touchdowns. If he plays for Green Bay next year and stays healthy, he's got a legit shot to already be in the top 5. Paul Hornung and Donald Driver at 62, right above him. Sterling Sharp's at 6 with 66. Amon Green's got 68. Jordy Nelson's 4th at 69. Not that far out of the realm to think that Aaron Jones is back next year. He'll be climbing up more on this Packers all-time record book, history charts. So, yeah, I definitely would like Mr. Jones back next year. I think maybe we do kind of take him for granted a little bit, or maybe underappreciate him a little bit. He's a dude, and he's proven that he can do it between the tackles, outside, catching the ball. Maybe you'd like to see him involved a little bit more within that offensive game plan. A couple minutes left. Good morning, Morgan.
Hey, you have limbs laying on your floor. What happened? Are those arms to a mannequin?
Yeah, that mannequin.
Why don't you put them on the mannequin? They're laying on the floor.
I'm lazy.
I was going to say, it looks like somebody talked back and you guys got into it here.
No, I got to figure it out.
See the other guy.
Yeah.
So you're a fashion guy.
No,
I know
I'm not.
You are. You're a fashion guy. Fashionista, one might say. How do you feel about shoes? Like the big fervor over shoes used to be the Jordans, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you get into that?
No.
Not a bit.
No.
Are you going to watch the Nike movie that's coming out?
I didn't even know about it.
Well, hey, let me tell you something. I don't want you to disassemble limb for limb and then throw them around the studio.
I just found out that Creed 3 was coming out in March.
Hey, I didn't know that, so
okay.
I'll trade you info here then. So this is a movie coming out, and if you remember, was Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. That was kind of the last time they teamed up, and they, that did some good stuff for them, all that. Well, they're back together. There's a new movie. It's about Nike's formative years. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and it'll actually be a theater release. It's from Amazon Studios. It's called Air. So it'll be their first movie to get released into the theaters since 2019's Late Night. So now Affleck, he's going to play the Nike co-founder, Phil Knight. And Damon is going to play a guy named Sonny, the man who signed Jordan to his first shoe deal. Do you know about that story?
I know a little bit. Yeah, because Jordan didn't want Nike at first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I think it's made him a little change.
I think he wanted Adidas, if I remember right. Yeah.
So they're going to do the whole movie about that. And it's Affleck's also behind the camera there serving as director. Do you have an interest in the movie and the way that shook out? Because it is kind of like obviously about more than shoes, because it went on to go bonkers, and it's kind of iconic both in society and pop culture. And I don't think this is just coincidental and by chance, but anybody that has parents or is a parent or around kids, this whole new like Nikes are back thing. Yeah. My daughter has been deep into like the Nike socks with the swoosh on top and wearing those.
Who didn't have
and
those
she's got the well the Blazer shoes right now are the big deal. That's all back in fashion again. So is this something that you're into, that you are interested in, or
Possibly.
When it came to kicks in your own life, what did you fall to?
Well, it was probably first Reeboks because I was a Shaq fan and Shaq endorsed Reeboks.
Okay.
So it went to that, and then it went to Nike. But
so you're definitely influenced by your players.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Sports, the sports affiliations and signing those endorsements is a big deal.
Oh yeah, I mean Giannis is Nike, so
yeah. And my niece is Giannis, so she wears his shoes all the time. That's her big deal.
Yep.
So then, do you remember like any kids from Medford that were definitely into the Jordans?
Oh yeah,
because there was always that couple of kids in class.
I still know somebody who older than me that collects Jordans, the new ones every time they come out.
like has a room full of them
I
and that
think
kind of
so.
thing?
Yeah. I don't know if they
believe
wear them
it.
or not, but yeah.
Though they're definitely in to
Yeah.
see the movie then.
Oh,
So
yeah.
is this something that you're interested in, even though you're a fashion guy and not so much a shoe
I'm not a
guy?
big Ben Affleck guy, but I'm
What did
kind
Ben
of
ever do
intrigued.
to you?
Played an awful Batman is what he did.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
Second hour kicking off on this Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding your gears? You can get it off your chest by texting us, tweeting us, Facebooking us, commenting on the video stream, whatever floats your boat. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you all tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in. Second hour, we're going to kick off with some sports nuggets of the day brought to you by ANC Associates. We'll get to that here in a quick second. But I want to give you your bench start cut now so you can, well, if you want to, you can text it, tweet it, or Facebook it all in throughout the rest of the morning here. Going to change it up. Going to go with a little bit of a Brewers route with this bench start cut. But there we go. Yeah, got to do the intro first. All right, so we're going to the Brewers. We're going to go to the back end of the rotation here. Now I know it could be adjusted throughout the season, but let's just for this purpose, let's assume that the Brewers are going to have a typical 5-man starting rotation, okay? And we know the top 3, assuming that they're not going to make any drastic moves or anything like that. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta. I'm taking Aaron Ashby off the. Aaron Ashby's going to be on this team, whether it's going to be a starter or bullpen. But let's assume for again this exercise that maybe he's the 4th guy. You know, projections. We talked about the projections. I think it was from Fangraphs or MLB.com that had him as one of the guys to watch out as a starter for this year. So let's assume those are the 4 starters in a typical 5-man rotation, starting rotation for the Brewers. Bench start cut for that final starting spot. So it really will be start, bullpen, cut / trade. Eric Lauer, Adrian Hauser, Wayne Miley. Start, bullpen, cut / trade. Who do you got for that? Assuming the top 4 in that starting rotation for this exercise, whether you agree with it or not, but that's what the rules are. Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, Ashby. If we go with that typical 5-man rotation, is it who gets that 5th starting spot, who gets sent to the bullpen, and who would you cut or trade of those 3? Eric Lauer, Adrian Hauser, Wayne Miley. You can text your picks on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. All right, let's do some sports nuggets of the day. Again, brought to you by ANC Associates. Let's go 1947. NFL owners voted to allow a sudden death overtime in playoff games. The rule wasn't used until 1958. Hey, pitch clocks and all that, Major League Baseball. How about this? 1955, the Rules Committee of Major League Baseball announced a plan to strictly enforce the rule that required a pitcher to release the ball within 20 seconds after taking his position on the mound. There you go. 1964, CBS acquired the rights to televise the National Football League's 1964-65 regular season. The move cost CBS $14.1 million a year. That was in 1964. The NFL stayed on CBS for 30 years. And a little bit of a hiatus, and they're back on CBS. Mike Bossy from the New York Islanders in 1981 tied Rocket Richards' record of 50 goals in the first 50 games of the season there. 1982, the 49ers won their first Super Bowl. Joe Montana won the first of his 3 MVP awards. Let's go. Mario Lemieux in 2006 retired from playing in the NHL for the last time. He had previously retired and came back from cancer, a heart problem, agonizing back pain, a rare bone infection, a self-imposed 1-season layoff, and 5 years later, from the boredom of retirement. So, yeah, those are some of your sports nuggets for this morning. Catching up on a couple of tweets here. We got, where did we, I don't want the Bucks to pull a Brewers and trade a guy that would affect team chemistry. If they do trade, it needs to be a young guy. Pat, in my opinion, needs to stay. He's proven he can be clutch, and he'd be missed in a locker room. I think they could afford to give up Beauchamp or Carter, both for Van Vliet. Aaron Jones is worth the money. They need to keep him because they won't get similar value anyhow. Somebody texted in that they had the Grant Hill feel. Oh, boy, I remember those too. Oh, yeah. I want to know if anybody back in the day got like the jump trainers. Like before the internet was out there, before Facebook and Twitter and all that, like it was always in price guides if you were a sports car collector or if you picked up a magazine like Slam magazine or whatever have you, and you saw everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? It was like a lot of times it was in black and white, but it was like the Spud Webb shoes, I called them. The big old disc on the bottom. Yeah, if you're a Seinfeld person too, it's the Jimmy episode. But those jump trainer shoes, did anybody ever get one of those? Because I always wanted one as a kid. I wanted to dunk. And I thought those were going to help me dunk. Did anybody get a pair of those jumpers? And I want to know your feedback on it. I got to know if anybody got it. I got to know if anybody actually ordered and had one of those pairs. Please let me know if you do. Okay? I want to know that feedback there. Hit me up with a text, tweet, or Facebook post or something like that. We're going to talk some Badgers coming up in the next hour with RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst from the Zone in Madison. But the Badger Hoops team falling last night to Northwestern in that makeup game. It was originally scheduled on Saturday, but we know Northwestern had some COVID issues, so it was moved to last night. It's going to be a quick turnaround for this Badger basketball team because they got Maryland coming up tomorrow night here. But again, a slow start for the Badgers. Northwestern putting up 32 in the first, Badgers only 26. And then cold stretches, especially towards the end for this Badger Hoops team. Couldn't hit a shot down the stretch. And, we've kind of talked about some of the stuff that has shown up on a consistent basis, some of the concerns that have shown up on a consistent basis for this Badger Hoops team throughout the season, whether it's been some rebounding issues, slow starts like we kind of saw again last night in Evanston, or those cold stretches down the end. Badgers, they missed their last 7 shots from the field and 9 of their last 10. They'd gone like minutes without hitting a field goal. This is a problem, obviously. But, like, who is this player? And they might not even have him, but, like, who is the player that can stop those droughts? Who's that shooter, that playmaker that, all right, we're going through a little bit of stretch here. That guy that you want the ball in their hands at the end of a game. Who is that guy? Maybe they don't have one. They probably don't. But right now, given what we've got with this Badger Hoops team, who is that guy that, that's who I want with the ball in their hands at the end of the game? I think that's a big question mark surrounding this Badger Hoops team. Like, I don't got it. And if you're going to continue to play in these close, tight games that's coming down to the wire, what Greg Gard called them, the drama team or something like that. That's how we kind of labeled them because, it's always close at the end. Nothing comes easy. Like, you need that player that's going to be that, okay, that's the guy we want, taking the final shot, or that's the guy that we know, he's going to get us out of our little bit of a funk right now, or a little bit of a shooting funk right now. He's our dude. I don't think I got him right now. Four of the 5 starters for the Badgers last night, double-figure scoring. The only one who didn't was Stephen Krall with 8 points. But not a lot of bench production either from the Badgers last night. I don't know. Badger team that started off, this has been such a wave of a season so far. Preseason expectations, nothing there. There was like nothing. Then and they climb up in the rankings. What was the highest? 14th, I think, off the top of my head. 14th off the top of my head. Is that right? But now, kind of going through the stretch where they're out of the rankings right now. It's a close game against Kansas in the tournament. They made that comeback. But you look at the last 5 games here. Lost 4 of their last 5. Illinois, Michigan State, Indiana. Barely beat Penn State 63-60. Then they lose to Northwestern. And it's not going to get any easier. We'll see what they can do against Maryland. Then they got Illinois in a rematch coming up. That one will be at the Kohl Center on the 28th. But they got to find that guy that's going to – is it Tyler Wall? Who's that aggressive guy? Who's that guy that can take a game over? Put the ball in his hands and let him go. That's who I think. If I had to pick one person right now, maybe it is Tyler Wall. Chucky struggled a little bit last night, trying to get a shot to go in. Obviously, they don't have a big shot Bob, like shout out to Robert Ory back in the day, but that's definitely going to be one of the issues. I would say like the 2 biggest issues that concern me the most with this Badger team, well, maybe 3 if we put up a couple, was the slow starts. And they necessarily didn't get, dominated on the boards last night, but you can point out more than a few times this season where they've just got dominated on the glass. Rebounding issues, and then closing out games. Those are my 3 biggest issues, concerns maybe is the best way to put it, surrounding this Badger Hoops team right now. But we'll chat a little bit more about that with RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:25, 8:30 after we catch up with our good friends from the Steel, Chip of Steel over there too. So let's go. Okay, we got a bench start cut. This was tough. But I'm going to start Miley, bullpen Hauser, and trade Lauer, mostly because I feel like he is going to bring the most back regarding prospects. I kind of figured a lot of people would probably put Miley into that starting spot. I think, honestly, I probably agree with you, Jeremy, with yours. I'd give it to Miley for that last starting spot. Again, the rules are if we're going based off of a typical 5-man rotation, and we're assuming it, and for this exercise, Ashby's going to be the 4th starter, then you've got Miley, Hauser, Lauer for your final starting spot, and maybe 1 bullpen spot, and we got to either cut or trade the other one. That's how we're playing this game. I think I agree with Jeremy's that it's Miley, Hauser in the bullpen, Lauer. See if you can get some prospects or some players back in return for him. If anybody else has anything different, hey, fax them on over. There's no right or wrong answer, baby. There's no right or wrong one. So get those on over. Speaking of the Brewers, Brian Anderson chatted a little bit yesterday. Not the TV guy. Their new versatile infielder. Well, I guess I shouldn't say just infielder because he's probably going to play majority of his time at third base, but play a little bit in the outfield there too. So, but he said yesterday that he's open to any of it in terms of where he's going to play. He's even game to play first base if called upon. I want to be with a winning team and a winning culture and be a part of that fun baseball again. That's more what I'm looking forward to than anything. Third base, first base, outfield doesn't really matter to me. He did indicate that he is healthy. He said he's working out. I'm full go. I don't even notice my shoulder anymore. Talking about the issues there. And his throwing shoulder has been fine all along. We got Matt Arnold saying Brian is a well-rounded player that should help us in a number of ways on both sides of the ball. His tools and athleticism, along with how hard he plays the game, are all characteristics we value here with the Brewers, and we are excited to have him on board. Anderson said they talked a lot about third base kind of being the primary role they were looking at with me, with occasionally spending some time in the outfield and maybe even some first base. First base is one of the positions I have the least amount of work at. What really appealed to me about Milwaukee was just the whole organization. I'm just excited to be with an organization whose focus is really on winning and competing at every level. So, I mean, unless the Brewers kind of go out and maybe make a surprise move or whatever have you, it sure looks, I don't, maybe will they have like a rotation sort of thing going on at third base, or unless they, because if you go to brewers.com and you click on their depth chart, and I know depth charts are not 100% accurate. Like, I don't necessarily like to always look at those and like, oh, that's who they got there and that sort of thing. But they got Luis Urias listed as the starter at second base and the starter at third base. We know Bryce Terang could be a potential option at second base. They got Toro over there listed as the backup second baseman. Terang is the backup third baseman. But you look at, third, I wonder, could it almost be a revolving, like a rotation over there a little bit? I feel like maybe Luis Urias is going to be the everyday starting second baseman, which I'm good with, because that is going to, with the whole banning of the shift, you need a dude that's going to be able to cover some ground over there. You're going to need some good communication with your shortstop, and that's what Luis Urias and Willy Adames have. Those two guys are like bros. They're like BFFs. So I think those two will work extremely well covering the middle, up the middle of the field. But when I look at like third base, could it be a Bryce Terang? Maybe it's going to be Brian Anderson getting the majority of playing time over at third. Rowdy Tellez has got to be the everyday starting first baseman right now. And then still you got Castanera that's kind of lost in the shuffle here. I don't know. I almost feel like Castanera is going to be traded. Who knows? I just feel like that, unless he's, because they still got Jesse Winker as maybe more of a DH option. Tyrone Taylor is a starting right fielder, but Garrett Mitchell at center, Christian Yelich in left. Maybe Keston could be a bench bat, but I don't know. I almost feel like he's going to get traded. Really do. All right, we gotta take a quick break, and we'll chat some more green and gold. But keep your thoughts coming. Keep your bench start cuts coming. All right, text those babies on over 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Don't forget, it is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. We'll get to that coming up before the 8 o'clock hour. So what's grinding your gears, people? Get it off your chest. Let us know. Share it with the rest of the class. Other day, I got the notice in the mail that it's time to set up a meeting with my tax guy. I hate math, so I need someone to do my taxes for me. So let me ask you the same question. What's your plan for tax season this year? Like, what are you going to do with that refund if you're getting a refund? Well, I've got a suggestion for you. I think it's time maybe to use that tax return of yours on a new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center. Chances are there's probably a floor in your room that needs an upgrade. Living room have all that wear and tear, maybe even some stains on it from over the years. Yeah, sure, they're good memories and stories, but it probably looks pretty bad. Kitchen floor need an update. That's where my wife wants to get a new floor put in. Or maybe, just maybe, that man cave or rec room. Whatever room needs that update in flooring, you only need to visit one place for all of your flooring needs, and that's Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. Just stop on in at Carpet City Flooring Center, take a look at all the different selections of flooring they have, and if you have any questions, they're an awesome, incredibly helpful team is there to help you out. So put that tax return to good use and get that new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. The question that we kind of threw out there in the first hour and such, I guess a little bit ago too, was there was one maybe Packers player that you do not want to see the Packers move on from this offseason. Like, you would just be heartbroken. You'd be upset. You'd be throwing stuff across the room. Who would it be? So we'll ask Joe. Joe, who's that one Packer player that's a realistic one, because we know it's not going to be like an Elton Jenkins who just signed a contract or Jair, but like, who would be that one player like, son of a, that they maybe would move on from?
It's interesting, Captain, because I've been seeing on social media that some people are actually saying that the Packers moving on from Aaron Jones. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's ludicrous. Obviously, he's one of the more important cogs in this offense. And I just look at it and say there's no way that you can get rid of Aaron Jones. Now, do you need to restructure the contract? Absolutely. But do you get rid of him? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. That was my pick. For Aaron Jones. Do you think he kind of gets maybe a little underappreciated or maybe a little overlooked, and maybe that's just because he doesn't get the ball as many as he's not a typical bell cow like a Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry, but do you think we kind of maybe take him for granted a little bit?
Yeah, I think so, and I think also you've got A.J. Dillon, so you've got that two-headed backfield, and I think a lot of people see that and say, well, we don't necessarily. It was real interesting, Captain, because I saw this yesterday. There's two ball carriers in NFL history to record 40-plus rushing TDs while maintaining a 5 yards per carry average through their first 6 NFL seasons.
Yeah, that was our trivia question for the day today. That was, yeah.
Oh, was it really? I didn't even realize that. There you go. There you go. I just think that he really, I think he is underappreciated. I think yes, does he have a couple of big fumbles in big games? Yes, but I think he really is the key to this offense moving forward, with or without number 12.
And I think too, like I noted, I know everybody gets worried about those running backs hitting the wall, and that's what concerns a lot of people when it comes to giving running backs big contracts. We talked about it with Aaron Jones, when he signed that new contract and all that sort of thing. But he hasn't looked like he's lost anything. I mean, he still looks like he's quick hitting the hole on those one cuts. He's still hitting the outside, and maybe a lot of that has to do with he's not getting all the same amount of attempts as like some of the other guys in the league. But he doesn't look like he's lost a step or hit that running back wall at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you look at everything he brings to the table, not just as a running back, but also as a receiver in the passing game, and also as a pass blocker, picking up the blitzes. I think Aaron Jones does all of the little things, and I think if he can continue to stay and play and be healthy in Green Bay, I think he's got a really good shot at eclipsing Ahman Green's total rushing record for the Green Bay Packers. So, yeah, he would be that one guy. There's just no question that I would say, man, I really do not want to see him leave. The the other one that I don't think is as important of a cog, but I think is undervalued and underappreciated, and I still think his best football might be ahead of him, is Robert Tonyan. And now is he the absolute answer at that tight end position? I don't think so. I think they really need to look at upgrading that position this offseason. But I think Tonyan deserves another contract from the Packers. And again, coming off the ACL, I thought he was reliable, not as explosive this past season. I think he's another guy that if they let him walk, I'd be disappointed with. Not as bad as Aaron Jones, but I put Tonyan up there probably as my second position.
Joe, I think one of the biggest how do I want to phrase this, myths or biggest over exaggerations is this Aaron Rodgers contract, and that's what's maybe kind of like that won't allow Green Bay to trade him, or a team won't take on his contract. I think that's one of the biggest myths out there. I was over the weekend, I was kind of looking at it, and the numbers that intrigued me the most is it's actually cheaper for the Packers to trade him this year as opposed to next year in terms of like dead cap hits. So when you look at something like that, Joseph, does that change your mind or your perspective on what the Packers should do this offseason with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, and a guy who I think you and I both respect, Andrew Brandt, he's been saying all along that the way that they structured this deal, this was the year if they wanted to part ways to make it happen. And so, I agree with you. And I think if they're going to do it, this might be the season to do it. And I read your article the other day with your newsletter that I subscribe to, and I'm kind of in the same vein that you are. And listen, look, there's a lot of speculation in Rappaport, Adam Schefter, all these guys are saying, if the right package came along, both sides might move on. Well, first of all, that's true for any player.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anybody, reading too much into that, because I truly think that really is. I mean, yes, there's a couple of players in the NFL and in sports that just are untradeable. But yeah, I think the right package comes along. I do think that Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers could part ways, and a team that has at least the rumor mill out there are the New York Jets, and they would have zero problem picking up Rodgers' contract. And obviously with a coach like Robert Saleh, they've got some pieces there, and they feel that they're a quarterback away. And so Packer fans could be living deja vu again as Brett Favre sailed off into the sunset to New York and the big city lights. Aaron Rodgers might as well. I don't think Rodgers is retiring. That is the only absolute I'm going to say. I'm going to remove that as an option. Could an option be a trade? Absolutely. Could an option be him staying? Absolutely. I don't see the contract as a huge hindrance. And, Rodgers talked about it on McAfee. He said, Mercedes Lewis, Alan Lazard, David Bakhtiari, Randall Cobb, he mentioned, Robert Tonyan. And I just don't see Green Bay bringing back all of those guys. I think Lazard is going to get a big offer from somewhere. I don't think Randall Cobb is the right move to bring back at this point. I do see Bakhtiari. I do see Tonyan. And so, if that's the stipulation, if Rodgers says, we're going to run it back all, again, but I want my boys with me, I think Green Bay doesn't have a lot of options at that point but to move on. And I agree with you. I think the contract itself is not that big of a hindrance. I think Green Bay could make a deal if they want to. And again, a couple of the things that I've been seeing is that, they get a number one this year and a player and a conditional pick in 2024, because that conditional pick has to be tied to whether or not Rodgers plays or not. And so, and I think that's pretty fair compensation when you look at what some of the other quarterbacks have traded for. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I don't think this contract is a hindrance at all for Green Bay to move on if they want to.
Wouldn't it be interesting, Joseph, that Aaron Rodgers, for a guy that has criticized some of the media and all that, to have to play in the New York market? I mean, that would just be like perfect, right? It would just be
Oh my God,
perfect.
it's the perfect irony.
Yeah.
And look, here's the other thing that has rolled into this whole thing. You, Schefter said that the Packers like Love, et cetera, et cetera, and Green Bay. Don't be fooled. Green Bay knows exactly what they have in Jordan Love. And so for me, it's if they feel they have a legitimate quarterback, and again, I have not been on the Jordan Love bandwagon from the day he was drafted. But and again, if Jordan Love is the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers and has a 10, 15-year career, and I've said this, I will buy beers for any bar that I'm at the opening season of every season that Jordan Love is starting. And so that's really what this comes down to. I think it's more so about how they feel about Jordan Love than how they feel.
Oh, you still there, Joe?
Jordan Love
Okay.
and Aaron. Yep. Can
Okay.
you hear me now?
Yep. We got you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't see Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers together on this football team this season.
I agree. Like, I feel like if Aaron's back this year or this upcoming season, I feel like then, not because they got to decide on that 5th-year option. We talk about cap hits. They pick up a 5th-year option. You're talking about double-digit cap hit for 2024, but then Aaron's cap hit on there is going to be more than what it is this year. I just don't see, like, from a business side of things, how you can hold on to both for another year.
Yeah, I don't see it either. And if Jordan Love sits out another year, I believe that he would be the first round quarterback ever to sit 4 years with the team that drafted him. And so I just don't see it. And I see a solution. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is holding the Packers hostage. We haven't even gotten into the new NFL season yet. So I think this is going to get rectified, and I think we're going to know which direction probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And before that NFL season comes, and before free agency and all the other things that come. And again, I think, like I said, I think it says more what the Packers think about Jordan Love, what they do in the next month, than what they think about Aaron Rodgers.
I would agree with that. Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning. So you talk about like trade package. I think a lot will be based off conditions, kind of similar. When they traded Favre to the Jets, was a 3rd rounder, but if they made the postseason, it'd go into like a 1st round or 2nd round or that sort of thing. I almost feel like, though, too, like, and I think I saw this floated out there a little bit, maybe a conditional pick for 2024, like, because I feel like a team's going to want to know, like, hey, Aaron, how long are you going to play? Although the Jets didn't do that with Favre, but, I know people are like, oh, 2 first-round picks or something like that. I think I would be shocked if it's 2 first-round picks, Joe. What would satisfy you if Rodgers were to be traded?
Yeah, it's that package that I mentioned. I would go a number 1 and a player, and then a conditional pick that next year. A conditional number 1. I think that's a fair, and maybe that drops down to a number 3. I mean, maybe there's different levels of that. I mean, look, I think Aaron Rodgers can still play football. I still think Aaron Rodgers can play at a very high level. Yes, his stats this last year were not his best by far, but also when you really break him down and compare him to the rest of the quarterbacks, especially in the NFC, he compares pretty well. And so I think Aaron Rodgers can still play football. I'll go on record in saying Aaron Rodgers' last pass in the NFL is not going to be an interception. And so I do not see him retiring. He will either play with the Green Bay Packers or he will play with another team. And if the right package comes along and both sides can move on, I think it's time. And I am to the point, as I think you are as well, and I think most Packer fans are, that it's sorry about that, Captain. I just almost got ran off the road just now.
Oh, geez.
But I think it might be time to move on, and I just don't know if this LaFleur Rodgers running it back one more year is the smartest thing to do.
One other player to kind of switch gears here that maybe he's a free agent too, and he's up there. Would you like Green Bay to bring back Mason Crosby?
You know what? If you've got Jordan Love, and let's play this scenario out. And you're probably going to be in some close football games. I wouldn't hesitate bringing back the guy who you can say to yourself, you know what, we're locked and loaded at that position, and we can at least get 3 points on a drive and feel pretty good about those chances. And so I wouldn't mind that at all. If you've got Rodgers back, I don't think it's as critical, which is really interesting because I know Rodgers would want Mason back. If you have Love back, you need a kicker who you consistently hit at Lambeau Field, put points on the board. Because I just don't know. I don't know how this offense will look with Jordan Love, and so there's so many question marks there that I'd say, yeah, absolutely, bring Mason Crosby back. Even if you need to have another position of someone who can kick off, I just think you need points if you've got a young quarterback going through growing pains.
Because isn't it interesting? You look at that Dallas and 49ers divisional game, kind of two opposites. You had a kicker in Dallas that, everybody's holding their breath for, but then it's the old aging veteran, reliable Robbie Gould on the other side where you don't have to worry about a guy like that when he's out there kicking field goals. Kickers, we kind of take them for granted, and you don't talk about them unless you need one at that point.
Yeah, and you look at the San Francisco recipe. You look at Purdy there, and then you look at somebody like Robbie Gould, and you're saying, you know what? When we go down the field, and if our drive stalls, we've got to get points on the board. So yeah, that'd be one of those where most people would say, well, if Rodgers back, he's going to want Crosby back. But I don't think it's as critical to have that money kicker, that veteran, if you will. I think Rodgers in another, if he does come back with these young wide receivers, et cetera, I think Mason Crosby is more important to Jordan Love than he is to Aaron Rodgers.
All right, Joe, before I let you go, who do you got in championship weekend on Sunday? Who do you think is going to advance to the Super Bowl?
I'm kind of looking at this, and I kind of see the rematch. I think we're going to see a San Francisco-Cincinnati Super Bowl. And I would Joe Burrow. If anyone thinks that he's not top two in the NFL, they are sorely mistaken. So yeah, I'm looking at a San Francisco-Cincinnati, a rematch of Joe Montana, Kenny Anderson back in the day. And if I'm not mistaken, Forrest Gregg was the coach on that Cincinnati team. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I'm looking at San Fran and Cincinnati. Joe Cool against Kyle Shanahan and DeMeco Ryans. And that team that they've put together. So that's those are my picks for this weekend.
That's a good one there too. I think we're going to be up for a good matchup either way. I'm really looking forward to these games this weekend. I think these are going to be some really, really good ones.
Yeah, me too. And I will say Sunday of this past weekend, I thought there were some really good NFL teams and NFL games, and I think we got some. I think objectively, you've got the four best teams playing for that right to go to the Super Bowl this weekend.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Joe. All right, well, don't get run over. Appreciate you joining us this morning, and be safe. Look both ways. Maybe a third time there too, and we'll chat with you next week.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, and then we're going to do a little grind my gears. My grind my gears. It's focused at another quarterback who also wears number 12. Tell you about that coming up next. All right, it's that time of week again. We're catching up with Joe from Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Joe, thanks for stopping on in. I know the roads were a little tricky, but we're in Wisconsin. We're used to this, right? I mean, come on, people. Get the truck. I think it should be a law that everybody has to have four-wheel drive on their vehicles if you live in Wisconsin.
I agree.
Yeah, just make it. I mean, we're used. Come on now. It's every single year. Get through this, baby. So
make life a lot easier for a lot of people.
Right, exactly. So, you brought me in a gift, the turtle frappe. So, thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I know my wife. I think I mentioned it last week. The Twister is her favorite one over there. The white coffee that was awesome, and I didn't know. I'll tell my wife about it. She said that's her second favorite one over there. She gets that quite a bit before going to work, which I didn't even know about. So she really likes that one too. It was awesome. Like I was telling some people about it, they didn't kind of know what it was. They wanted more details, and after I told them, like, that sounds really interesting. And you're the only ones that have that
in the area, yes,
Yep.
and that I know of. We feature two drinks: the tumbleweed made with caramel and the palomino made with white chocolate.
Yep,
those are always on the menu. And then we also feature the white coffee throughout the year for our drinks of the month.
Yeah, I had a couple people ask me on Facebook if it was the tumbleweed or the palomino. So it was a popular one on there on
Awesome.
social media. So, but one other cool thing too is you're a coffee shop, but you have quite the impressive menu with Cabin Coffee, breakfast and lunch served all day. But it's not something that you just pop in the microwave and you keep under the warmer or anything. It's made fresh, right?
Absolutely, it is made to order, so you can change up the variables of your breakfast if you want. If you want on a plain bagel, everything bagel. If you want it in a wrap or a croissant, so it's not pre-made, it's not pre-packaged. It's made to order, so it's as fresh as you can get it.
I like the club. What do you have a favorite, particular favorite on your menu?
Yeah, I'll go with the club, and we have an amazing chicken salad, and we have quite a following for our chicken salad on our croissant. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that one. I like the breakfast stuff on croissants.
Yep.
That's my favorite over there too. So, and that's something too. Like with the app, you can order on the Cabin Coffee app too, right?
Absolutely, the app is out now, and so you can order. Avoid the lines and put it in early and get it, and we'll have it ready for you when you show up.
Absolutely, and you can go to their website. The menus are up there as well to check it out, or stop on in because you guys love chatting with people over there too.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Joe. Appreciate you stopping in, and can't wait to catch up with you again next week.
Sounds good, man. We'll see you later.
All right, coming up just past 8 o'clock, we're going to catch up with our good friends from the Chip of Steel. Then after that, we'll chat some more Badgers with our Badger analyst, Mr. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. Talk some hoops with him. We'll throw even a little wrestling. They went up against Iowa this past weekend, it looks like. So we'll talk a little. I know RJ's big wrestler guy too, so we'll hit that up, kind of change it up there a little bit too. But we're gonna finish up the second hour with a little grind my gears. All right, so my grind my gears, I'm going with a quarterback who wears number 12. We don't know who he's going to play with next year, but he played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past year. Tom Brady is my grind my gears. So he's got his own podcast. Let's go. Jim Gray's on it, Larry Fitzgerald and such. But in his latest episode, he was asked, by Jim Gray. He was asked by Jim Gray about, his retirement. And he got a little testy. With the ever solid Mr. Jim Gray. Gray asked Brady whether he'll play in 2023. Brady saying, if I knew what I was going to do, or I should say, let me rephrase this. If I knew what I was going to blank do, got an F word there. I would have already blank done it. Another F word in there. I'm taking it a day at a time. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. Dude, you got to expect that question to come up on your own darn podcast. You got to expect that question to come up, whether you're going to the coffee shop, to the golf course, whatever the heck you're doing. It's going to come up. There is no need to throw a little knip, you know what. Come on. You've been playing for 50 years. People are going to want to know when you're calling it a career. And then, so he got fined. Got fined over $16,000 when he tried to trip Malik Hooker in that playoff game against the Cowboys. His response to that, I'm a little disappointed, though, because I tried to tackle Hooker with my right shoulder and missed him. And I wasn't going to try to stick my arm out, so I was trying to get him to the ground. I missed him completely. I didn't even hit him. I tried to trip him, but I didn't. So I don't know how you can get fined for something that didn't even happen. Are they fining an intention? It's like targeting and you miss the person you hit and they still call it targeting. So I got to figure out and understand why this is the case. This is why I wish our NFLPA, the Players Association, was stronger. Here's the other thing, Brady. You have a history of tripping people, okay? You have a history of this. I'm sure that factored into it. It was blatantly obvious what you're doing. And guess what? You admitted it within your own podcast you were trying to do it. It's against the rules. You have that background of doing it. Pay the fine and move on. $16,000 for Tom Brady. Go in your car and look through your cup change. It's probably there for crying out loud. This whiny complaining on your podcast about getting fined for something that, yeah, you did try doing. And getting asked what your future is going to be like, dude, come on. That annoyed me when I saw that. It grinding my gears. All right. We got 2 in. We got 1 more to go. We'll kick off with a little hockey talk with Chip Steele and then some more Badgers chat with our good buddy, RJ Cardinal. We'll be back after these news updates. Final hour on this Tuesday morning, kicking off right now. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It's on the radio dials or online or on the app or on your Google and Alexa home devices. We're going to chat some more Badgers with RJ at the bottom of the hour. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. We'll get back to some more of your texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Want to join the convo? Hit us up, 715-830-1912. We kick off this hour, though, with our good buddy, Coach Casey from the Chippewa Steel. Feeling a little bit better?
Morning.
With,
yeah, feeling
with
better.
the wisdom
feeling
teeth
better.
and that.
I'd say 85-90%.
All right.
So it's been.
Did anybody tell you to like put whiskey or anything, like when you're like, wasn't that an old wives' tale or maybe back in the day, like babies or something, like if they're teething or something like that?
That wasn't prescribed.
Wasn't prescribed?
No, maybe I'll try it though.
I was gonna say, or like
like in a glass or something.
Yeah, maybe swish it around or something like that in there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm open to ideas. So
hey, I saw this yesterday before we kind of get into it a little bit more, but you named another captain for your team. Can you tell us a little bit about Sam and why he deserves to wear that C on his sweater?
Yeah, Sam was with us last year. He's a very vocal, kind of hard on your sleeve kind of kid. I had a conversation with him last year about, USHL and this and that and the other thing. And I had talked to him about, hey, if you stay, I would name him the captain. That was last year. So, I like our leadership group right now. I think it's strong. I think it's, they're a little bit more of a quiet group. So I just think he kind of gives us a little bit more of a voice and a pulse and a heartbeat and like just a little bit more maybe passion, like outwardly. I think the other guys, they really care, but they're doing it in their kind of own way. I think he's more of a vocal guy. And I don't think he's afraid to hold people accountable as well. So it's a good extension of us as staff, and it just felt like we needed a little something. So it's been a couple week process of me kind of mulling it over and talking to some players, but just decided I think it was time.
Right. So that congrats to Sam over there. That's gonna be quite the honor to wear that C. I mean, not many sports. Once in a while we'll see it in the NFL. I know some teams have different, like they'll just do it for the playoffs or whatever, but hockey, it seems like that's where it's more, of a thing, that captain patch on there.
For sure. I mean, every team, it's definitely an honor to wear that, and it's important, and comes with a lot of responsibility too. There's a, kind of a different standard that you're held to, and
it's not just like a name or a title that that you can just walk around with. There's
for sure
stuff that comes with
it.
Absolutely. So awesome. Good stuff there. Another thing I wanted to kind of catch up on before we get a little bit too deep in here, but I saw you guys post this too. You've got, can you tell us a little bit about these summer tryout showcases that are coming up there? Because I know our area is, big with hockey, talent in that, but tell us a little bit about these, because it's not just here, it's like across the country.
Yeah. So we do, after the season, we'll do 3 summer showcases with, this year we're actually going to have Michigan, Prior Lake, and then we go to Vegas.
Ooh.
So Michigan and Prior Lake will have 5 North American League teams at the events. So we all put together, different number of teams, and then we go, and it's more of a tournament. There's no, on ice practices or anything like that, but we'll do a seminar about kind of junior hockey and, the landscape and the different paths and all that stuff. And then, we'll have exit meetings with every player that plays for our team. So, we try to target the younger, junior age eligible players, to kind of give them an experience of what, a camp looks like, and playing against maybe some older players, and really kind of the whole, like I said, the camp process as a whole, like what it looks like, because it's nerve wracking for kids to come to, our main camp and try out. And, there's a ton of kids there. And this kind of just, I think, exposes them a little bit to what, the process starts to look like, moving forward. And every year, it seems to be almost every year that we have, one, maybe two kids that come out of those camps, and then they'll go to our main camp, and then they'll come to training camp, and they'll just kind of stick around and make our team. Nick Howell is one of them this year. He was at the Hudson pre-draft camp last year, actually with a different team. He wasn't even with our team. When we liked him and saw him. And so again, there's different paths for everybody. But these camps are great opportunities for some exposure to multiple staffs and the head coaches of those staffs, and there's a lot of other events out there that are maybe not as well represented, maybe more scouts and kind of secondary staff or exterior staff. Which can still be good, but the head coaches are the ones that you really want to be getting in front of and seen by, and those are the people that you have a chance to make an impression on.
Yeah, and then I know this was late last week, but this is our first time to catch up with you. But you've actually got a few of your players who are going to be in the top prospects tournament coming up in Pittsburgh in just a couple weeks or a few weeks here.
Yeah,
isn't it?
February. We leave the 5th is a Sunday, so it's the 6th and the 7th.
Okay, so right between some regular season games, so it won't affect that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, it's a Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
Kind of, I think it's done for multiple reasons, obviously, to not miss any games.
Right.
Easy to attend for the colleges with it not interfering with their schedule as well. So Parker Ganas and JJ Granda, and then Adam Guyon and Sean Ramsey are all in attendance. So yeah,
nice.
it'll be good. JJ and Parker are both uncommitted 20-year-olds, so in their last years. And the event is really designed for that kid. It's like I don't want to say a last ditch effort, but it's a it's a good opportunity to get exposed again later in the year than the showcase to some guys, and hopefully get on a short list of some names that schools might need a guy late.
Right.
There's interest or are still looking and might need one right now. So I think that event in years past, pre-COVID, like you would see 15 kids commit after like the first game, like because it was that kind of, there were still that many spots. Now I mean, now with COVID, like with guys having that extra year, the portal, I don't think people really know sometimes what they need until potentially after the season, with kids telling them they're not coming back or leaving for the NHL. And so what was already a pretty long process, you have to be even more patient with now. So it's I feel for these guys. It's there's definitely a lot of stress involved.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going back and forth. So that's in Pittsburgh too, correct? So
Correct.
you'll be hopping on.
Yeah,
that's where it was. Was that last year in Pittsburgh?
It was
too?
last year there as well. So at the Penguins practice facility.
Remember you talking about that a little bit last year, that facility.
Yeah, it's a tremendous facility. It's really cool.
That's awesome. So congratulations to those, and you'll be going with them too over there. So
correct. Yeah, we'll have a head coaches meeting there. So
look at you traveling all across too, man.
Yeah.
No rest for you.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
No.
So
I was in Minneapolis last night. So
man, what are you doing over there? Scouting?
Yeah.
Look at you, just hitting the roads.
It's
grinding, man.
It's what it takes.
Grinding. I love it. This weekend, you'll be hitting the road, going to Janesville, your in-state rival. And I know just a couple weeks ago that you were already down in Janesville at the beginning of the month there. So going back down there too. What are, you're coming off of a tough weekend against the Wilderness. What are you looking to see besides obviously wins and that? But, in terms of how do you bounce back from this past weekend, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're talking about it a lot as a staff. We had some pretty frank conversations yesterday with our team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it to me, it's a commitment to not only win, but do whatever it takes to not lose.
Right.
You know, Friday night, I honestly thought was going to be a turning point. You know, we go down, we come back, we go like 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
1-0, 2-1, 3-2, we tie it up every time. We give up a goal with, well, if you ask me, 0 seconds left on the clock in the third period, but
Mm-hmm.
you ask other people, there might have been some time left, and you know, that is what it is. But that was a tough one, you know. And then Saturday night, we had 70 shot attempts, 37 on net. You know, the Wilderness blocked 27 shots. I mean, we blocked 9. So, you know, it was a great game. Brill hit the elbow with about 8 minutes to go, about a minute and a half before they scored to take a 2-1 lead. I mean, that goes in, it's, you know, a different story. So it's just,
Right.
it just feels like it's one of those waves right now where it's, you know, if it's not going good, you know, it's going the other way, you know, like,
Yep.
I mean, it's
a fine line. It
anything
almost
that
feels like too.
anything that can happen poorly is happening. So, you know, I don't think we're playing bad, but we're just, at the end of the day, we're not doing enough.
Mhm.
So, probably a change or two to be made personnel wise, but I think we still feel pretty confident in the team that we have. And like I said, we've been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at the analytics over the last, you know, 10 games, you know, we've been the better team, you know, 8
Right.
or 9 of those times. So
Mhm.
I think, you know, for us, we just got to be consistent with that and trust that, and hopefully it starts to turn a
Mhm.
little bit here, you know. But
Yeah.
again, it's you know, you earn your bounces, right? Like you just do by
Mhm.
doing the little things and doing a little bit extra. So we just got to do more.
So you'll be on the road for Janesville, but then after that, you're kind of some homebodies. It looks like for the month of February before you go to Alaska. Then you'll be gone there a little bit. But will it be nice to kind of maybe hit this road trip against Janesville? It's not that far, and then stick with your home base here for what could be a crucial month of February in terms of the standings.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, that's another thing we talked about is, you know, having a playoff mentality, you know, starting now. I mean, it's just, I don't think we have any more time to waste.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get Adam back on Saturday, which will be a nice, you know, shot in the arm for our group, and Carter's had a heck of a season, and he's done a great job for us, and those guys will continue to play. But I think just getting him back will just, you know, give us a little boost, right? And
Right.
that's
It's kind of almost like making a trade, really,
yeah,
isn't it?
well, I mean, technically it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we are trading for him back. So but yeah, so it's excited about that, to get him back. And you know, we did make a trade yesterday actually to swap out a defenseman. So yeah, I mean, it's I like this trip to Janesville. I mean, I like to go there, and the boys spend time in the hotel, and it's just a good kind of bonding experience. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's something to be said about sleeping in your own bed. And you know, our crowd again on Friday night was just outstanding. I mean, they just feel like they keep getting bigger and bigger. And you know, I can tell, like, during warm-ups, I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of people here already, you know, like that's a cool feeling to have. We got to start to maybe win some games at home, but yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's a really kind of important stretch here for us, and hoping that we're going to turn a corner.
Yeah. So how did Adam do over with Green Bay over there?
He's currently 5-1.
Man, that's not too shabby, huh?
Yeah, he's done.
That's awesome.
He's done really well for himself. It's been you know, it's been a crazy 6 months for the kid. I mean, he's now.
So he'll be back here. Then he goes to Pittsburgh shortly after with you guys over there too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. He's getting his travel in too. But yeah, he's actually ranked. He's the 4th ranked goalie on Central Scouting for the NHL draft this year. So
that's awesome.
I mean,
that's really cool.
And he wasn't even on the list when he showed up. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you can just, anybody who thinks that, you need to play somewhere else besides this league to get what you want, I think is just misinformed.
Proof is in the pudding right there.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, he's obviously he had the opportunity to go and play at some pretty big stages, but he didn't have a spot to play,
Mhm.
and has proven to be all the success that he had started here in this league. So it's pretty exciting for us.
This might be a stupid question, but like for you as a coach and the general manager for these kids, do you almost kind of act like as an agent almost for these kids, but as part of like the recruiting, like trying to get the exposure to these colleges? Obviously, it's not pros or anything like that, but do
Yeah,
you kind of like a marketing sort of thing?
yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the phone with college coaches,
Mhm.
promoting our players. To me, the most important thing in this and coaching and recruiting is my word, right? Like
Right.
of what I say a player is that what he's gonna be,
Mhm.
and I try to honestly probably undersell guys and allow people to kind of make their own decisions.
Mhm.
I don't want to be anyone who's like, well, you told me he was A, B, and C, and he's none of these things, right? So
Right.
because the only thing I care about, I mean, for me personally, is that when I call a coach, and tell them about a player, that they take him seriously,
Mhm.
you know, and that takes time, to kind of build that trust and that respect for yourself. And um, but yeah, I mean, spend a lot of time calling on these kids' behalfs, and
Mhm.
a lot of it has to do with them, and how they do. But I have some guys right now that I'm beating the drum for pretty good. So we'll
Mhm.
see. I'm hoping that something gets done for them.
Right. So you got Janesville this weekend, then you're back as the calendar flips. Kenai coming to town in the beginning of February. Then you got Springfield, of course, your Pittsburgh trips in between
Yep.
there. So you'll be home for a couple weeks, but then at Wisconsin, I mean, that's still not a lot of.
Yeah, I think we honestly have, we go to we haven't gone to Springfield yet, so we go there twice. We go to the Wendigo again.
Mhm.
I think we end in the season in Cloquet, and then the Alaska trip. So,
Yeah,
well,
it's
yeah, I
coming up
mean,
there towards it. Yeah.
it's crazy. We're over halfway. It feels like it maybe just started.
I know. I don't
But
feel like we've talked about for half the season so
yeah,
far.
but here we are. I mean, and that's what we talked about yesterday is, urgency.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
you don't want to look back at the end of March and say, what just happened?
Right. Yep. Exactly.
I
That's a
know
good
I
way to put
certainly
it.
don't want to do that. So, yeah, it's time to the screws were tightened a little bit yesterday.
All right. We like that. So after their Janesville trip, the Steel will be back first weekend in February, the 3rd. First 100 fans get in free. Big shout out to Chippewa Valley Tech College for that. And then the 4th, Kiwanis Club Kids Night. First 250 kids get in for free. So kiddos, parents looking for something for the kiddos. I saw you guys
Absolutely.
were doing some youth skating too with the kiddos last week.
Yeah,
Some
it
of the
was.
players were.
I think it was Bloomer School District. They come over the 4K program, and yeah, it's fun to get. We were tying skates, and the boys just are on the ice
Mhm.
helping, and it's funny to watch. It's funny to watch some people put skates on and get out there, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh, that would be me.
yeah,
That would be
and
me.
and we're just. I think we kind of take it for granted a little bit. What
Mhm.
that skill in itself is. Like, let's face it, anybody can go on a basketball court or a football field and toss the ball around, right? Or shoot,
Mhm.
like, I mean, um, maybe not at a high level, but it can be done.
Mhm.
The fact that you have to be able to do something besides walk or run, just as the starting point,
Yeah.
is something that I think people sometimes they don't appreciate it as much until they try and get on skates themselves.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's fun to see the little kids, and they're just they're up and down. You know, they got to leave there with some bruises.
That's awesome. Well, as always, do a fantastic job with the local community too. So, well, Coach, hey,
Thanks.
best of luck this weekend. Bring
Appreciate
back
it.
some W's and safe travels, and then we'll talk about next Tuesday.
Sounds
for that
good.
home stretch there. So
Appreciate it.
You got it. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then RJ Cardinal from the Zone, he'll be hopping up after these few words. Bottom of the hour here. Let's jump right into it with our dude, Mr. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. Badger Hoops in their makeup game against Northwestern falling last night. They got a quick turnaround against Maryland coming up tomorrow night. But RJ, with this loss against Northwestern, obviously we've seen this team kind of have their ups and downs so far this year. I know Greg Gard kind of labeled them the drama team. A couple months ago, they've been in some close battles and that sort of thing. But you look at the game last night and not hitting a shot or getting cold from the field in the last couple minutes here is one of the biggest worries or concerns with this team is that maybe they don't have that guy, that clutch guy at the end, or that guy that you want the ball, in his hands that can make that shot. Is that one of the biggest issues on this team, or am I overreacting a little bit?
I think it's more of having a player with situational awareness. Even on the final couple of seconds in the game, I mean, you had Chucky Hepburn dribbling the ball around, passing it off, getting the ball back, and then flailing to get a foul on a 3-point shot. I mean, if anything, that should have been as soon as somebody can get a pass and shoot, you pass and shoot. Yeah, it's not a dribble it out until there's 0.6 of a second left on the clock, and really put yourself into a hole there with, even if you go, 2 for 3, purposely missed the third, which we all saw. He missed the first, so that didn't help out at all. It's just watching a team that has no clue how to play inside the 3-point line. You were in the double bonus for a good majority of the game and didn't take advantage of it. Had you tried to get down low a little more often, I think, heck, most of Northwestern's team probably would have fouled out of that game. But it was one of those games where shots just couldn't drop. Open shots couldn't drop. Trying to create your own shots wasn't working. And then, I mean, people who normally are making their shots are missing them. The little layups that Stephen Bardo was talking about it almost every possession. Oh, there's another missed layup, or a little bunny hop that Wisconsin missed. It's one of those. It's getting pretty tiresome of watching easy twos get missed, and even if a foul comes, there's no guarantee you're getting 2 points off of it if it's not an and one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So quick turnaround against Maryland coming up now, RJ. So, I mean, Maryland, I know you look at this Big Ten conference. We were looking at it yesterday. I mean, outside of Purdue, you got a bunch of teams that are just like within each other. I feel like when we get to the Big Ten conference tournament, that's going to be kind of a cluster or kind of a race to see how everything's going to seed out, again, beside Purdue, because they clearly look like the cream of the crop of that conference.
Yeah, and like every week, it just becomes a new article of who's number 2.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. But yeah, I mean, it's somebody new every week. Somebody else looks like they're the team who's going to pull away, and then their next week they go 0 for 2, 0 for 3, and yeah, a different team steps up and has a good week. So it'll be very interesting as we continue to move towards March, how this plays out. And it really just looks like a conference that everybody is right around each other's own skill, talent level. I mean, whatever you want to call it. It's just one of those where I don't think one way or another we're going to see anybody just pull away. I mean, we've even seen Rutgers beat Purdue at Purdue. So, yeah. I mean, it's not even like Purdue is alone. I mean, yes, clearly they are the team to beat. But, I mean, people have beaten them. So, well, I shouldn't say people. They've only had one loss this year. But they're still 2.5 games, I think, in first. So it's not like they've pulled away, but it really does look like it's their regular season to lose right now.
Would you say if there was a positive or something positive that we can take away from the game last night was Jordan Davis, maybe perhaps having one of his better games of his young career?
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see. You have a day where did he end up as the leading scorer on the day? I think
believe
he did.
So, yeah.
And it really, I mean, and what you hear is people just being like, well, yeah, he was the leading scorer and they still lost. Well, I mean, he still was able to take control and be a part of, keeping the team in it. it's not. So we've talked about it before. It's not solely on one player on this team to end up being the guy. It's somebody new steps up almost every game. It's just the way this team's made up. And yeah, it happens from time to time where, I think the real reason we probably didn't win this game is Max Kleinschmidt being, apparently in somebody's bubble. So taking a elbow to the face and requiring stitches and being in concussion protocol didn't warrant a foul or a flagrant foul on an elbow that, was okay in the 80s, but by all rules and standards now, shouldn't have been thrown. Can't clear space like that, but whatever. It's one of those where it's odd that Jordan Davis has a game like he did, and people just say, well, he can't lead a team because they still lost. It wasn't really his fault, but that's people, or at least people down here, are kind of being like, well, see, he can't lead a team because even if he does, they don't have a chance of winning.
Man, a tough crowd, dude. Holy man.
Yeah.
Hey, RJ Cardinal, our badge analyst, joining us here this morning. Something I think it's a little near and dear to your heart. We got to give a shout out to Badger Wrestling, don't we, from a couple days ago when they went up against Iowa?
They were having a pretty good week. They were picked to probably still lose to Purdue earlier in the week as well on Friday, but they pulled out a win there, and a convincing win, 28-9. And then Iowa lost on tiebreaker criteria on most match points scored, but tied Iowa 18-18, and then Iowa got the extra point due to most match points scored. I'm trying to remember what level of criteria that is, but it usually goes most pinfalls, most extra points in terms of either a decision, a major decision, a tech fall, or pinfall. And then I believe most match points is the one after that. So fourth criteria, but it was electric. I think I saw the announced crowd was 5,200 in the field house. So it's good to see that the field house packed for wrestling, even if it's Iowa. I mean, it's always going to be packed, but it was an awesome atmosphere to see. It was I watched that myself on the Big Ten Network, so it was pretty electric, and just kind of shows the field house. I mean, we've seen it for volleyball, but you can get that place packed, and it is a loud venue, even if it's out of date, I guess you can call it. But it was pretty cool to see. Yeah, even though you lose it on tiebreaker criteria, you can't walk away with that feeling bad. It's a loss on your record, but I mean, you took that team to the brink, and you were one match away from hopefully pulling out the win. Just didn't happen.
How would you assess the state of this program? When you think of Big Ten wrestling, obviously Iowa, you got the Gophers that are pretty solid over there too. How would you assess where this Badger wrestling program is right now?
Yeah, right now they're kind of in the middle of the Big Ten. But I mean, as a whole, that's not really a bad spot to be, because it probably means you're in the upper echelon of NCAA wrestling as a whole. I mean, you took Iowa to the brink. You faltered against Michigan and number 1 Penn State. You kind of got a little bit embarrassed. You almost pulled one off versus Illinois. You lost by 1 there, but overall, it's a team that at one point earlier in the season in some duels beat number 12 Princeton. They're not necessarily that far off from making that next step. They also beat number 7 Cornell earlier in the year. So it's one of those. This team Sure, 1-4 in conference duels, but I mean, I would go out on a limb to say this is the best wrestling conference in the nation. It's one of the reasons why a lot of qualifiers for the NCAA tournament are from the Big Ten. It's one of the reasons why, and qualifying is a little different than other things. You don't really have a regional or anything like that. It's kind of based on your conference tournament, where there are years the top 10 finishers in the Big Ten all are automatic qualifiers for the NCAA. So it's a bit awkward on how it's actually determined, but I mean, in Big Ten wrestling, it's good to be even mentioned in the top half of the conference, because more often than not, that means you have a pretty good wrestling team yourself. 7-5 on the year in duels. They took 4th at Midlands, which is a pretty big tournament that happens over the winter break period. But yeah, it's looking pretty good for them this year. We'll see what happens here moving towards the Big Tens and then the NCAAs. But yeah, it seems they are peaking at the right time right now. But you just have to kind of keep this going up until you get to the Big Tens in March. They still have 4 duels left. They go to Northwestern and Nebraska at the end of this month, and then they get a little bit of a break, and then they host Minnesota and Northern Iowa prior to the Big Tens, and that's mid-February, and then yeah, Big Ten start March, the first weekend of March, I think it is, and then you get a little bit of a break into the NCAAs on March. That's usually around St. Patrick's Day, I think it is. So, but yeah, it's really looking good for them. And like I said, outside of putting the L on your record, you cannot feel bad about what was the electric atmosphere. And I mean, might as well call it a tie, but you know, you got to feel good about where the program is right now.
Absolutely. To kind of wrap things up, hockey-wise, men's team, RJ, going up against Ohio State this past weekend. First one up on Friday. They beat them 4-0. Then Saturday lost 0-2. But considering it is Ohio State, they're 7th in the pairwise. Would you consider that a successful weekend for the Badger hockey men's hockey team?
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Moving forward, just try to get splits every weekend. You're the bottom team in the Big Ten right now. I mean, the week prior, they had an exhibition game against the under-18 team from the USHL. Actually got into a rather large brawl with them. So that was a rather embarrassing time, losing 6-1 and then having a guy get a game misconduct for fighting. But yeah, you come out Friday, win 4-0 looked in a dominating fashion, and held Ohio State. I think it took them till the second period to get their first goal of the weekend. And I mean, you didn't play all that horribly on Saturday, but yeah, just couldn't pull it out for one reason or another. So it was good to see getting a split with the number 7 team in the pairwise. And prior to that, even, I mean, we talked about it, but you got a split against Notre Dame as well 2 weeks ago. So it's one of those, just try to get your stuff together here and just work for a split. And it sounds odd to say as following Wisconsin hockey, but that's where we are right now. And we talked about it. Their recruiting class is like 11 kids, so it might be one more year of Tony Granato to see if the new blood will be able to get you over the hump. If not, I think that could be something where mid-season next year, if we're still talking about a Wisconsin team that is having its worst season ever, that it'll be time to move on, maybe even in season. So, yeah, it is what it is right now. But yeah, work for those splits.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned last week, your little league softball coach got his women's hockey team to bounce back against Minnesota State's 2-1 victory and 6-0 victory there too. Never.
Yeah, they started scoring goals again. It's crazy what happens when the puck goes in the net.
Right,
So,
exactly.
good to see, and hopefully that'll help end the little skid here of 5 in a row, was it, before that? And yeah, you're back in conference. Well, I mean, you were back in conference when you played Ohio State, but it's one of those. Hopefully, just getting some wins there help straighten some things out, and you're heading into the home stretch here soon, where you got St. Thomas, St. Cloud, Minnesota, and Ohio State to end here. So it's not like I think St. Thomas is still kind of not doing so hot because, I mean, you jump from D3 to D1 like that, and you kind of have to take your lumps until you get the recruiting talent in there. But yeah, it's not the easiest of schedules down the stretch here. Hopefully, the reset button and put together some wins here into the WCHA tournament.
Good stuff as always, RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst. Appreciate the time, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the week. Hey, we didn't have any fickle spotlights to really talk about or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, portal is closed right now.
Yeah.
The only thing we got to look forward to right now is that first Wednesday of February, where we'll have signing day, and we'll see if Wisconsin can pull anybody out of there and flip people, or we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think it'll be dark for a little while, unless they get some verbal confirmation that somebody, at least will say they're going to go to Wisconsin.
Mhm.
But I think that'll be more of a day of thing.
Well, to quote Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight Rises, or The Dark Knight, the night is darkest before the dawn, RJ. The night is
Very
dark.
true.
There you go. So, all right, dude. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you again soon, sir.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, Zone in Madison. We got to take our final break. Hey, tonight we're going to find out who is making the Baseball Hall of Fame, if anybody. We'll tell you who's got the best chances and whether you think that, well, are they Hall of Famers or not? Who doesn't love cooking up a good burger on the grill? Having a good burger is one of the most satisfying moments in your entire life. And now we have the perfect burger to put on the grill and create more satisfying moments in your life. It's the Dan Good Burger, available only at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Burger has bacon, cheese, ranch seasoning all on the inside, the patty, to give you the perfect balance of taste and awesomeness in each bite. So head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, grab yourself a few Dan Good Burgers, fire up that grill, get some man cave lights at the bar over there. Be a good weekend right there, maybe for some football games. We'll keep you updated on, we've got, thank you to all of you who submitted the recipe ideas for the brats and the snack sticks with Mike's Star Markets. We'll have the finalists revealed coming up here soon, so hold on tight. You're going to have to do some more voting there, too, maybe even do a little taste testing. So that'll be coming down the wire here very, very soon. We only got a few minutes to the top here, but wanted to note, we're going to get the Baseball Hall of Fame. Maybe. We'll get maybe the 2023 Hall of Fame election. Well, we'll get the results, but we'll see if anybody actually is going to be joining the crime dog, Fred McGriff, into the Hall of Fame this year. If you remember, Fred McGriff was voted on by the Contemporary Baseball Committee. So he for sure will be heading into the Baseball Hall of Fame. As for the rest of the rest of the ballot here, might be a little bit close. If we look at last year's voting results, Scott Rowland had the highest percentage. Remember, you need 75%. So last year, Scott Rowland, he got 63.2%. The next highest was Billy Wagner at 51%. Alex Rodriguez had 34.3%. Gary Sheffield, 40.6%. Manny Ramirez, 28.9%. Andrew Jones, 41.4%. Remember Andrew Jones from the Braves. Todd Helton also had 52%. First-timers, Carlos Beltran. Got J.J. Hardy's technically, I mean, he is on there. K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez. So it looks like it's going to be close, but if we base it off the numbers, and, you know, some people have kind of released their votes and some of the polling, you know, the math and that, it looks like Scott Rowland will be put in there. Wagner's going to be close, it sounds like, too. Todd Helton and Andrew Jones trending that way. Don't know if they'll have enough this year, according to some of the stuff that's out there. But, you know, Scott Rowland, I mean, you kind of look at the numbers and his career numbers. I know Tony La Russa called him the best third baseman when he was with the Cardinals there. Was it 2004? But career numbers, 316 home runs, 281 batting average, 1,287 RBIs, OBP of a 364, slugging 490 on OPS of an 855. Would you consider Scott Rowland a baseball Hall of Famer? Do you consider him a baseball Hall of Famer? I was reading a little bit. I think it was on the New York Post. It might have been John Hyman. But, you know, they even made the comments like, hey, when you were watching Scott Rowland play baseball, did you think he was a Hall of Famer at that time? And they said, probably not. But now he might be. The next closest one is going to be Billy Wagner. Pitcher, a long time for the Astros, if you remember back in the day. Then Phillies, Mets. Finished his career with 47 wins, 40 losses, 422 saves, a 2.31 ERA. But it seems like right now, remember, baseball, they don't have to add anybody in there. And the last couple of years, they've been barely. Was it 21? Nobody went in. 22 last year. The only one was David Ortiz. Might be kind of coming through a stretch here where it's going to be slim pickings or few pickings to kind of get in there until we get more eligible players. I'll be curious to see where the Alex Rodriguez numbers, how much do they go up, especially with, like, you know, you look at the crop of players and the group of players, call it for what it is, lack of Hall of Fame worthy type of players. Does his votes kind of go up a little bit more? Potentially. Andrew Jones, Todd Helton. We mentioned them. Todd Helton, 316 batting average, 369 home runs. You know, I know I was reading some stuff. Does he get discredited because, well, he played in Colorado? We'll find out tonight, though. If we're going to have any new members for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Then, well, a couple weeks now, we're going to find out for the Pro Football Hall of Fame too, right before the Super Bowl. But that time of year. All right, that's going to do it for us. Shot clock's going to cut me off here. So tomorrow, halfway through the week, we've got stock reports, whose stocks are rising, whose stock is falling. Get another segment of Showdown. It's Wednesday Vigilante, Sports Vigilante Wednesday. Got that coming up as well. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a good rest of your day. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. We'll chat with you then.